So we actually have a variety of programs for the Esports Association. One is career readiness. So we actually work with the Career Center here to better prepare our association members to learn those life skills that they are going to need so that when they make that transition over to a career pathway.
Awesome, awesome. This guy, we gotta turn around. This guy wins almost every tournament we throw. I'm telling you. You gotta watch him live. He's gonna be something big. I'm telling you.
CSUDH Esports Association is centered in 4 domains: academics and research, community engagement, competition, and entertainment.
We're trying to make sure that the students are prepared for the future, that they understand the diversity that media offers now, and again, look beyond the traditional outlets.
They can gain fieldwork, partnerships, as well as potential job opportunities and in both the higher education and K-12 fields.
We believe that esports is a strategy and not an outcome. Our association is here to help anyone that is willing to learn how to take your gaming skills to the next level through a supporting community. If you are looking to showcase your production talents to help support our esports teams, then this is the association for you. We host online and on-site tournaments that will allow our members to showcase their competitive spirit. Our association broadcasts out our competition and practices to entertain our community as well as our global audience. We believe that by joining us, you will come out of the association feeling transformed and better prepared to transfer your skills into your career. Join today and begin to explore endless opportunities through our Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, for those that are joining us live, and for those that will be watching this on demand later on. First off, we have a very, very special guest today that I'd love to introduce. But beforehand, I just want to make a quick announcement, and that is thank you, those that are viewing and that are willing to like us, follow us, comment. We can't do any of this without your help. So very grateful for your support. Feel free to follow us in any of our social platforms if you like what you see. We really thrive on your feedback, so we encourage that. All right, without any further ado, allow me to introduce to you our special guest. Her name is Victoria, and Victoria, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, so I'm Victoria Horsley. I currently am the Chief Revenue Officer at the Unified Esports Association and the President and Founder of the Unified Collegiate Esports Association. I've been in esports for about 8 years and then spent about 1.5 years in traditional athletics within that. Yeah,
Wow.
that's my work history.
You just, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing just even to hear all of your experience and background. And if you don't mind, Victoria, just so that we get to know you a little bit more, how did you get started in gaming? What was your first introduction, if you don't mind sharing with us?
My first introduction, I actually have a picture that I always show people. It's me when I was right around 2 or 3, I think. I have sunglasses on inside, naturally, of course, and a binky in my mouth, a yellow Power Ranger shirt on, and I'm holding a Nintendo 64 game controller. It's not plugged in, but that was, I always say that, like, this is where it started because I started out on the Nintendo 64. I would still argue that it is the best console, and I will every day of my life. So I started out with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and fell in love with those kind of games, even some Banjo-Kazooie back in the day. And then moved on. I kind of skipped the PlayStation 1 and I played Nintendo 64 up until PS2 came out. And when PlayStation 2 came out, I was in something that's ancient. It was a video game rental store. where you would go in and rent games and movies. It's crazy now to think of.
Yeah.
But I saw a game and it had some cool characters on it, and I saw like Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. I think I was 7 or 8, right around there.
Mhm.
And so I saw it and I was like, hey, I want to play this game. And it was Kingdom Hearts. And then I very, very quickly fell in love. Of course, every time I met a boss, I had to tap my brother on the shoulder and say, hey, can you help? I can't beat this, but I can beat it now. It's okay.
Right.
But yeah, that really started my love for gaming. And then I played everything, GoldenEye and the 007 games with my family. And I have a really cool brother. He's about 4 years older than me, but he always used to include me with all of his friends. So we would all play like different Halo games and Call of Duties together. And so I really got into the kind of competitive aspect, I guess.
Yeah.
And then my first real competitive game was Rainbow Six Siege that I really fell in love with. And that's also kind of where my career took off. I started messing around in the amateur semi-professional level with different teams and managing them and recruiting. And then I went into PUBG, and that's where I had a very successful team that qualified for like the Cyber Power tournament out in LA, and we traveled a lot, and it was a ton of fun. And then I crossed over into collegiate about 3.5, almost 4 years ago at this point. And then never really looked back.
Nice. That's so cool. I mean, gosh, when you're 2 years old, I got to see this picture now. Cool.
I'll send it to you. It's precious.
Oh, that's so sweet. So yeah, I mean, so you just started when you were young. You have an older brother. I mean, the fact that I hear your family is even involved into it, it sounded like gaming was like a bonding experience. Would you say so? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons that I push gaming so hard is whenever I was younger, I think it's unfortunately too common for people to say I didn't have the best childhood in every aspect.
Mhm.
And I really found solace in gaming. It was my way to escape. It was something that, even if I wasn't allowed to go outside or do something because of weather or whatever the case may be, and I wasn't allowed to go over to a friend's house, it was very much like, this is something I can do here, and this is something I can use to escape. And so that's why I have like little tattoos just from the different games that mean so much to me, because to me they were a saving grace in an aspect. And I really want people to be able to find that too.
that's super cool. Wow. I mean, gosh, for gaming to make an impact like that, and yeah, absolutely, I'm with you. And for those that are listening too, I'm sure we all have a favorite childhood game that perhaps just set it off or sparked it or ignited that passion of excitement, and then pursuing other games that we know today. Yeah, I mean, gosh, and I'm a big fan of Zelda, so I will just go out there and say it too. Can't get enough of it. Just couldn't stop playing Breath of the Wild too. That was just blew my mind just to see where it's going in its evolutionary process of how this game is constantly evolving. So yeah, so I'm right there with you. Ocarina of Time, also one of my all-time favorites.
Yes.
So
it's hard to beat. It is.
It is. I mean, gosh, if we even have to look at the storyline of the Zelda series, Ocarina of Time, it's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I won't give anything away for those who haven't played it. Just recommend go do it.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So, esports. I mean, when you were going to school, maybe in your high school days, college days, were there esports organizations out there? Were there clubs, extracurriculars related in the esports topic?
Absolutely not. I wish that there was. But even in high school, I was fortunate that I wasn't bullied for loving games, but I still had a group of like my tight group of friends. I would mention something about Kingdom Hearts and they're like, ugh, like, what even is that? You're so stupid. You're such a nerd. So, it was friendly banter, but at the same time, I didn't have anyone that shared the same interests. But there was also no outlet. So there was no team to go play with, or like a different group of friends that I could network with and go and communicate with. And it wasn't nearly as accessible today. And I think that is amazing to see how fast that grew, because I graduated high school in 2014. So within 6 years, there's high school organizations, like there's a whole ecosystem in the high school space. And my old high school now has esports, and I'm a little salty about it, but I'm glad that they have it. I'm glad
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
do. I just, it should have been there 6 years ago. But in college, my university had a club team, but it wasn't very serious, and nobody really publicized it. It was kind of just a group of friends that were good at Overwatch, and so they actually competed in TESPA, and did pretty well, to be honest. But there wasn't anything, especially curriculum, that it just didn't exist, and nobody really knew about what it was. And that was 3 years ago. So even within that space, we've obviously seen it explode in the collegiate landscape.
Amazing. I mean, gosh, like you said, it rapidly grew interest and getting the attention that was warranting with students, just leading the charge and voice, right? That's how you get to those spaces. But yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like, gosh, having a space, a club, an org of some kind, just so that you can, feel this common space, if you will, so that you can get together, play games, chat, build relationships. Yeah, it was just hard to find. It's like,
Yeah.
where do you go for outlets like that, right? It's like, where do you go? Especially if you want to geek out or nerd out, whatever it is, it's hard. It's almost like we're in the shadows.
Yeah.
Um,
A
but
little bit.
I know, a little bit, right? It's like, it's always like, hey, how can we, do the work that we're doing so that we can bring it forward for those that are going to feel in the position that we all once felt like, hey, I wish I would have had this right at this time. So, and I hear a lot about the work that you're doing, which I want to get into, but I also want to ask you just, how was it for you, especially entering the scene into esports, being someone that loves this passion, but feeling like you couldn't share so much, and then entering the scene, and then perhaps finding some difficult, perhaps entrances to it, because maybe the fact that you're, a woman, right? And it just led to, hey, there's lots of toxicity out there. Help me understand and unpack that a little bit, your experience.
I think, like I had mentioned, in high school, there wasn't a lot of people that shared it, but also, like I said, I was very fortunate that I wasn't bullied for it or anything like that. But as I moved into the competitive scene, particularly FPS games, it got extremely toxic very fast. That was a large learning curve. And I was very confused at first, because I was like, I'm not bad at the game. I'm not bad at these games. I can get better at different aspects. But people would just, I've always had Queen in my name in one way or another. And as soon as they see that, they just start attacking me for no, the reason is because I'm a woman, but no ethical reason, right? Like, it's been insane. And I think a lot of it, unfortunately, at the beginning, it took a lot of thick skin, that didn't come naturally, that I had to build. It shouldn't be that way, but it's the way that I learned. And luckily it is getting better to an extent. But back then, it was when it was completely new and there was really no accountability. So it was really, really rough to get started. But then once I started growing thick skin, I had actually been doing, while I was doing some remote stuff with esports, I was also working in traditional sports. So I was an event manager for the Houston Host Committee. So I did the Fan Fest and the VIP game day to debacle at Super Bowl 51. And then I did the whole event. I was an event manager for everything at the NCAA Men's Final Four in 2016. So I did some really awesome stuff in traditional athletics. I've always loved traditional athletics. I wanted to be a data analyst for the Denver Broncos. That was my dream. That was my goal. And then I got into traditional athletics and I was like, this is horrible. Not it for a lot of reasons. But one of them was I wasn't ever taken seriously, and it was because I was a woman in a lot of different instances. And the thing about traditional sports is it's 100 plus years old. So everyone is super set in their ways. They don't want to listen to me. They don't have to, and it's not going to be detrimental to them. And so esports I saw as, yeah, this is toxic right now, but it's so new. I know what I'm capable of, and people are going to have to listen to me. And whether you like it or not, I have opinions, and I'm going to be here, and I'm going to try to make it better. And it was just getting that mindset of like, I'm not going to let everyone walk over me. It took a lot of thick skin, like I said, and unfortunately it was really hard to build. But now just to the point where I'm here. I know my worth. I know my intelligence. I know that these people, the things that they're saying on these video games, they don't know me. Like, I think that's the hardest barrier to overcome is you start taking it personal. But then once you sit there, you're like, these people have literally never met or seen me in my life. They don't even know my real name. You know what I mean? These people have no idea. They're just being condescending because of who I am as a person on the very, very outside. And that's an issue, not only in gaming, but in the world that we need to address and fix. But in gaming, it just becomes very, very more clear. Great English today. Very, it becomes very clear because you can hide behind a gamer tag, right? You can hide behind a screen, and you just think that nobody's going to know who you are, and that's really contributed. But I've started just seeking ways on how can we fix this? How can we start getting to the core of the problem? And one of the biggest things is I was recently had the opportunity to be a moderator in a channel that had about 5,000 people in it for a Valorant tournament. My boyfriend was casting it, and I was a mod, and I was just like, first of all, I feel like I have so much power. Mods have so much power. But secondly, it was just I decided, and the two other mods, which were all friends, I was like, let's just create a positive chat and let's see how this goes. And we just started banning people if they were being if they started harassing or just being derogatory or just mean, because there's a difference between mean and constructive criticism, but people don't really know what constructive criticism is anymore. But it it just got so much easier because after we started banning them, yes, you're going to have the, oh, mods are silencing us, that whole whatever. But once you ban a couple of those people and just get the toxicity out, the chat was extremely positive. And so that's kind of when it dawned on me. I was like, this is the moderating should be for big tournaments should be a paid position. Like if we start taking chat seriously and stop worrying about, oh, but if I ban a couple of people, my viewership won't be as high. Because I get it. You want your viewership to be as high because things like Twitch and different platforms, they set these criterias of you have to have 75 viewers or whatever. So you're really, really counting on that the viewership. So you just learn to try to ignore it. But if people are attacking you or your character, it's hard to ignore. And we just like we can't all just pretend like, oh, just brush it off, it's not that hard. They suck. It's a bad comment about you. They suck. But this is a really long-winded answer. But like
no, this is great. No, yeah,
but just getting into it where the root of the problem is the community, and just coming in and telling people that, like, I get told all the time whenever I want to play Valorant has been the recent example of anytime you queue up on the mic, it's ridiculously awful. And so people are like, oh, just don't queue up, like just mute them. And I was like, well, I can't get better at an FPS game if I can't talk to my teammates. And right. I don't always have 4 friends that are online at the same time that want to play the same game. That's right. Nearly impossible. So it's gotten to where we think that we've just band-aided the problem. But in reality, we just have to get to where people realize that it's not okay to just be toxic, and we need to start fixing that. Like if we were at a concert, if somebody stands up and starts screaming obscenities at the singer, security is going to take them out, right? Like they're going to get kicked out of a concert or whatever situation it is. So I think we need to start treating things online as the same way and create a positive atmosphere, because that's really the only way that it's going to get better for me and minorities or just people in general. I understand that there's going to be smack talk. It's part of being competitive. I get it. But there's a difference between smack talk and just being just not having morals. Right. And so I think that line has been extremely blurred in gaming, and we just need to try to get to the root of it and fix it.
No, Victoria, thank you for sharing that. And it was detailed, is what I'm hearing. And being able to be on chat to pinpoint, hey, we are showing you all, whoever's viewing or watching, that this is not acceptable. That right there is important. Or else, how else are people going to learn that we take whatever channel seriously? You know what I mean? And so I think that's a perfect prime example for those that are throwing any kind of event, tournament, scrim, what have you. It's just a great way to understand, like, hey, we're entering in a space right now where toxicity is just not welcome. Like if you're not having a good day, maybe it's not the best time to go on. So, and because ultimately what it does, and just so that I can allude to it, is, hey, if we want to see esports improve as an industry as a whole, then who we're putting down that can't necessarily practice because they're just sick of the toxicity, I mean, we're not really getting the best competitive players out there or giving them the chance to develop so that we can actually see some really good competition. So yeah, I encourage those, and this is a great example what you just shared, to kind of be mindful of that before entering chat. And hey, is this going to be something that's going to hinder someone and put them down where they may not want to play? It's so important before chatting a response or reacting to something that won't be conducive. But right on. Thank you, Victoria, for sharing that.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so again, now you've oh, I love the cats.
We knew they were gonna show up.
I love it. Yes, I see the other one. I think the other one is sleeping. So
He
our
usually does,
sounds are
yeah.
soothing. Yeah. um, and so Victoria, if you don't mind, share with us a little bit about what you're doing now with UCEA, and even just how you got there too, sort of the evolutionary process of that.
Yeah. So like I've mentioned, I've worked in collegiate for almost 4 years now, at different levels, and then getting to some very, very high level places in collegiate esports, and just realizing that I'm not comfortable with any of the solutions that institutions have right now, whether that be because of cost or treatment or game opportunities or whatever. There's so many different groups of the collegiate, and I didn't feel like there was a real answer for institutions that just want to get better. And throughout my time, I've done a lot of research as far as how much does an institution actually get. Like if they are lucky enough to have a budget, about how much is that? And the answer is right around $10,000. If you're trying to spend that in a whole year on 6, 7 different game titles, you stretch yourself extremely thin. And a lot of the different collegiate opportunities take away almost half of that, which is fees and whatever, before you even get to the competition aspect. So to me, until the field starts to level when it comes to budgetary aspects, I think that there is a major need to make sure that these institutions all have a level chance of getting in, and that they can access different resources and different opportunities to be able to grow their program. Because without being able to grow it first, we're still going to have the top 20, 25 programs, and it's going to stay that way until we give other programs the opportunity. Because it's all just kind of a trickling effect that, you know, these different these different institutions want opportunities within esports, but they can't quite afford it, so therefore they can't prove to their president that it's good. And you know what I mean, like they hit so many walls. And so whenever I started creating UCEA, it was something that had been in my head in 2019, pretty early in 2019, and I started developing it actually at the end of last year, because I was given the opportunity to really build it out and vet it out and make it become a reality. And to me, it was something that the first aspect was that joining needed to be free. And that's because first of all, I have amazing partners on board that love it and they want to be able to help institutions without that barrier being so high. So there's people like NACAD, and we have a few more within the next couple of weeks that I really want to announce, but I can't yet. But it's really exciting. I know people say that all the time, but it really is. And I recently launched the UCEA internship program, open to all students at UCEA institutions. So it doesn't even have to be students in an esports program. It can be students anywhere. So there's 6 different positions there. Some of them have multiple positions available, but it's something that I want to create these opportunities for no cost to them, because I want an institution to be able to give as much opportunity and availability to all of their students that they possibly can. And by doing that, I'm not going to charge them thousands of dollars to even get started. So from there, our competitions have entry fees that are between $1 to $250, and they all correlate to a prize pool given out in scholarships. So for example, this fall we have a varsity Overwatch tournament, which I'm very excited. We went through the whole custom license process with Blizzard and got all of it. It's taken care of and it's good and it's verified and good to go. So we have that tournament, and it's $250 US per team, but then the prize pool is $10,000. So as much as I would like to make everything free, the reason that tournaments have a pay-in is, one, so that we can do that prize pool and make sure that we give it back, but also one of the other main issues I've seen in collegiate esports is forfeits. I think anybody who's worked in collegiate esports says, oh yeah, like my last 5 games have been forfeits or something like that. And it's just ridiculous. So we do need that level of accountability there a little bit. But within an entire year, I don't want an institution to be paying $5,000 to be able to compete in all of our competitions if they want to. So that's kind of been the goal. And the other aspect that I know what a lot of coaches need is they need to go to their administration and give a direct return on investment. So they need to be able to go to them and say, this is what I paid, this is what I got out of it. And it's so much easier if you only pay for the competitions that you're participating in. Because if you have an overall fee to join something, then they might not even have tournaments and games that you play in. So you make sure that where your money's going, you see a direct return on. And I found that that's a lot easier for institutions to actually, there it is again, to actually get on board with whenever they can see, this is where my money's going. This is good to see. And then we also focus on high level production. So all of our games will be produced, and we want to make sure that, even if a team loses, they have that video and those different things that they can go to their administration and say, hey, we may not have won, but we have students that are interested, and look at what they're getting to do. And this is so fun. And they get to have a spotlight and just a bunch of stuff. So essentially at the end of the day, it's all about the students, getting students more opportunities, getting them highlighted, and making sure that we focus on them, because at the end of the day, it's about the students, not the institution itself. So we need to make sure that we highlight that and give them all the ways in the world to become the professional gamer or whatever they want to do in the future, and make sure that, we can kind of help them along the way.
And I'm so sorry. I've got a little bit of a sound issue, so bear with me 1 second.
No, you're good.
I might pause my camera for 1 second.
It's okay. Maybe I'll have a cat that shows back up. No, we're not going to. This was her chance. This was her chance to be on a spotlight, to come in. Yeah, we do need more cats. My cat Itachi has brilliantly positioned himself right to where you can see in the nook of my chair.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I was just highlighting my cats and how egotistical they are. So
Oh, no. I'm so sorry, but my goodness. I've got a little pup right now, and it's scratching on my door, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just, had to give him a little toy just to distract right now. But, and then also, gardening sounds. Not so fun. I'd rather hear ocean waves.
It's fair.
Oh man, but sorry about that, Victoria. But
no,
yes,
you're good.
What I'm hearing though is, again, you're giving power and voice to the students. Really, you're making it about them, and it sounds like that's what UCEA is all about. And the fact that you're putting the spotlight onto the student success, and even through just the aspects of going through the competition and even through the production and offering them internships, it's more empowerment. It's more opportunity for them to actually explore outside of the competition, really other aspects that makes esports what it is today, and hopefully improve upon by including and not necessarily excluding, and creating that toxic-free environment, so that way it can really elevate. So I'm truly inspired for what UCA is doing, and what you are doing, of course, as an organization, to promote that, because that's really what it should be. And what you said earlier, give opportunity. That's critical, right?
Yeah.
For those schools that are just barely starting, for those that are looking to explore in these spaces, may not know that wasn't necessarily the case. And so, I completely understand what you're coming from, and I'm truly a supporter and admirer. And honestly, it feels like a movement, if anything, right? We're all moving, hopefully, in this direction, mm-hmm. just so that we can best inform what the industry should look like. Now, please share with us. I mean, I don't know how you do it. You are a president, and how you keep yourself super organized. I mean, how do you do it? What does a typical day for Victoria look like?
Late nights. But no, I've always been kind of adamant on not making people focus on a 9 to 5. Okay. I think with me, that's been very helpful, because making people, sit at a computer and say you start at 9, you end at 5. It works for some jobs, but I guess for some people it just doesn't. And so for me, I realized a long time ago that doesn't. It's also why I've been there. She's just going to be here the whole time. It's also why I've always preferred online classes. I kind of like doing things on my own time when I want to do them. And it's because I can start a day at 9 or 8 or whenever I wake up. And I might like, my mind tends to clock out between 12 and 2, sometime around there. And then I work for a few hours, and then I might game or something with my friends or my boyfriend and do something there. And then at 9 p.m., I'm like, oh, I have an idea. And then I work for 2 or 3 hours. And so I'm still working a normal amount of time, but it's just over a longer span. And I think I was glad that I learned that early on, so that I'm not just working 18 hours a day most days. But also, I have a lot of spreadsheets. I have, I think, 15 spreadsheets up on my desktop right now. And I know that sounds outrageous, but I love spreadsheets. But I used to be a total math nerd. So being able to actually see different numbers and different aspects of what I want to do and where it can turn out, and to see different growth projections and whatever, and what opportunity can help who, and different stuff like that. It's been a lot of organization and documents and journals, and like I kind of started with just making sure that I'm working when I'm good to be working. So I always make myself available during the day, but then making sure that whatever ideas or items that I'm really pushing, it's something just throughout the day. I make sure that I'm taking adequate time on, and really thinking through whether that's 8 a.m. or 2 a.m. It's yeah, it just yeah, that's a normal day, but there's a lot of stuff. My brain goes 500 million miles an hour, I swear. And my boyfriend would tell you the same thing because he gets to listen to it. But yeah, it's honestly a lot of fun, and I think that's one of the biggest aspects about esports is I get to work where my passion is, and that's not something that everybody gets to say. And that's also the part of the reason behind UCEA is I want to provide these opportunities just outside competition too, that I want people to be able to follow their dreams in gaming like I got to, and being able to expand that world. And also, like I said, making sure that they don't burn themselves out and trying to find that middle ground of when do I work best, when do I need a break, and not being afraid to take a break. If you need to go jump onto some World of Warcraft for 30 minutes, then you do that, because that's what I've been doing. I've just been fishing in World of Warcraft for the past few days, every once in a while. But yeah, just finding that middle ground, but also being able to follow your passion. So
Yeah. No, right on, Victoria. I mean, it's so true. I mean, yes, there's normal business hours, right? And at the same time, it's not to say that, our best functioning selves are going to be at those timeframes. Like, who says that, right? What rule is that, And so the fact that you have this passion that you're pursuing because you really see the importance of the work and how it changes and transforms too. Esports to me has always been about people, right? And it should be for any industry, but I know it maybe it's cliche, but it's a people business, right? It's literally, this is for the people. Why take it away from them and then put all sorts of barriers, if you will, that will make it hard for them to reach? It's got to be close, meet them in the middle. And I just hear it so much, even in just the work that you're doing and pursuing to continuously do, because it sounds like to me you're not done. There's still more work to be had.
there's always work to be had. Yes. But no, I enjoy it. So it's definitely not a bad thing. Not at all.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And Victoria, I mean, I just want to get to a couple of questions that people have shared prior. Let's see here. Okay, some of this is all related to some of the toxic areas. So I mean, again, you mentioned about thick skin. And of course, not everybody has, equipped with thick skin. And it's kind of hard to say, hey, just so you know, you're about to enter a space that you really want to enter, but just be prepared with thick skin. Like, that's just, it's not something you want to say, right? In a message. And what does that mean, thick skin? Like, what, do I have to put a shield up or some sort? So if you don't mind sharing with us, maybe some experiences, but still you're able to overcome. And it's not to say that, again, it's just sad to say that we have to overcome these challenges, because there's other better challenges to overcome and hurdle across. But what still kept you going? For some people, they would have probably said, you know what, I think I'm done with this game. I'm going to take a break and walk away. But what kept you going?
I think when we say thick skin as well, that means something very different to everybody, and we all get there in very different ways. I like I kind of mentioned, I did not start out with thick skin. I had to build it, and I think that that's very common. And a lot of people don't get to the point where they built it up, and it's because it sucks. Like it comments hurt and they suck, and it it's not something you can really just say is ever okay. And so I think part of the reason that I got to the point where and I will say, like, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes comments still bother me and I just have to stop gaming for that day. But overall, I think it's the competitive nature in me that it kind of fueled a fire. And I'm like, no, you guys are all wrong. And so part of me was just like, I have to prove these people wrong, which sounds ridiculous because these are anonymous people who don't even know what they're saying. And they probably say it in every game they've ever played in their life, which is horrible. But at the same time, it just made me realize that I have to convince myself that I am not the person that these people say that I am, just because I know that I'm not. And it sounds so simple, just be like, they don't even know me, so this is ridiculous, these comments don't matter. But they get to you, and that is perfectly normal. So I think honestly, the first item that people, like, kind of the first barrier you have to get over is realizing that it is okay to be upset about a comment. Because at that point, then you say, okay, I'm upset about this. And then you can kind of start assessing why. And then I think that that's what led me down the road of being able to say, okay, why am I upset about it? And then realizing, well, it's not true. And then you get mad because it's not true. It's kind of like the whole, you have like stages of grief or whatever.
Right, right.
And there's kind of the same thing, because I mean, I guess you could call this emotional grief, stuff like that. It's not something that's fun, but you have these stages that you fluctuate between sad and angry, and then you finally just get to the point where you just say enough. And to me, that was because of my competitive aspect. I wanted to be better. I wanted to keep being better than every person that said these things, and I wanted to try to prove people wrong. And you start to apply comments in game to comments that you've heard in real life, and that's why it becomes so easy for it to become such a downward spiral for a lot of people. And it just becomes such a negative thing, because you're like, oh, well, somebody in real life saw me and they said I was stupid today, and then I got on gaming and they said I was stupid and tell me to shut up because I was a woman. And it caves really fast. And to be honest, a lot of people get into gaming because, not everyone, but a lot of people get into gaming because they feel like they don't have friends, or there's a lot of other reasons, such as depression or social anxiety, or a lot of different aspects. So whenever you're trying to escape the world and you get into it and it's still being met, it's just something that nobody can tell you that it's going to be okay and to get over. It's something you just have to figure out within yourself. And like I said, it looks different for every other person, but my path was just realizing, like, wait, it's okay to be upset. And then why was I upset? And then being mad because it's not true. And then when I realized it wasn't true, I was like, okay, how do I prove these people wrong? Because I'm too stubborn to just sit here and let people say this about me. So then in my real life, I just worked as hard as I could, and I've gotten to where I am. And I definitely still have a long way to go, but it helps to be able to see progress in real life or in different aspects of your life, whether it's, I don't care if it's painting or doing whatever, just taking that anger and focusing on something else to make you become better, actually in turn will help you get to those games, and you start building the confidence in your life overall that they start to affect you less, and then you get more into the game than focusing on the comments, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, what I'm hearing is that you took that almost as an opportunity without even seeing the opportunity, which you were just trying to unpack it a little bit more to get to the point of, I'm not going to ignore my emotions because these are real. I don't want to ignore a piece of myself that's trying to work through something, or else how do I get better from that?
Yeah.
And you took that negative energy, as much as it was being projected and it shouldn't have been in the first place, but it's there, and turn it into something positive and saying, hey, look, if I'm experiencing this, I'm sure others are experiencing this. And it's almost like, you know, that's honestly, I mean, just hearing your story, it's courageous, because not many people have that ability to go through it. And I don't blame them either. It's like,
Mhm.
I understand that's not what this space is about. And if I think about just even what you shared, and even for others, you get to a point where you're working, whether you're studying really hard and pursuing your goals and your passions, and then you want to get to a place where you actually want to stress relieve and actually get to a point where you can play a game, and it should be fun, right? It's why we
Mhm.
play it. It shouldn't be like, hey, I'm going to play something to stress myself out right now.
Yeah.
So, uh, and you know, and then you get to a place where, okay, great, I'm getting bombarded with, you know, toxicity, putting me down and just discriminating me just because of who I am, and they don't even know who I am. Then great, I have no place. And it feels like you get to this place of being lost, and you're thinking, is something wrong with me? And
Mhm.
really, there isn't nothing wrong with you. It's really other people that don't seem to understand that what they're saying can cause that kind of level of hurt. And just being aware and educated is super key to anyone that wants to enter this space, because guess what? It's not all yours. We
Yeah.
all get to share it. And that's what makes the game beautiful, is that we get to share and connect with so many people around the world and get to make great connections and networks from that. So I applaud that, Victoria. I mean, it's such a good positive message to share, because for those that are entering, it's like, you know, it's sad that we have to say, okay, really quickly, beware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It shouldn't feel that way. And I think, you know, from, and I wanted to ask you this, because, you know, you've had a quite a different experience than most that I hear, is that you got a chance to play games that allowed you to bond with family members, not just with somebody as cool as your brother, but like parents.
Mhm.
When your parents heard that you were doing this, what did they immediately say?
My mom, bless her soul, is the sweetest woman
Oh,
on the face of the planet.
that's so
Um, but she's always been supportive, and pretty much anything, as long as we're not hurting ourselves or other people, she's always been, you know, I know you're gonna do great. I fully support you. Um, and that's been amazing to grow up with. I know that I'm very fortunate, and that's not everyone's story, but she was extremely ecstatic, and she was like, I know you're gonna kill it. Like I know you're gonna do great. So it's been amazing. I currently got back into streaming and just trying to push positivity in the Twitch community, and so that's kind of been my goal lately, because actually kind of back to toxicity, I actually got shoved off of Twitch for like a year because I just couldn't handle the toxicity. I couldn't handle the comments towards women. I just got sick of it. I got sick of trying to play games with my friends, and then they come in and it just the most horrific messages that no one should ever have to read in their entire lifetime. But I got back into it, and my mom, my brother, and my sister are almost always in my chat talking to me, and it's been amazing. And like this, so I have a Triforce tattoo. I have the blue outline for Nehru, which my gaming name is Queen Nehru, and
love
that's
it.
what it comes from. The goddess of wisdom, and my sister has the goddess of courage, and my brother has the power, which is at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
So my sister has the green outline, and my brother has the red one, and we got matching tattoos, and it's just something that's been super powerful. And I remember back whenever we were playing Nintendo 64, we used to play. My sister would kill me. A Star Wars game that I can't remember which specific one. I think it was Shadows. I'm not gonna say it because she's gonna yell
Okay.
at me.
No worries.
But it was one of the best games, and there was a really intense cheat code where you had to push all the buttons at the same time
Okay.
and move the joystick in a very particular fashion. And
Uh-huh.
my mom was the only one that could do it. So every time we were playing, we would just be like, "Mom," like no matter the time of day, and she would come in and do the cheat code so that we could play it. So I
Oh
was I was very very fortunate with a mother like I had,
gosh, that's so
and the
cool.
siblings that I've had, and
Yep.
it's been great. And I know that like I had different parts of my family that were very very ugly. So I feel like in a weird way I was very fortunate to see the really really loving side of family, and then the really not.
Mhm.
And so I can try my best to empathize with both sides, right? I can be very very proud with the people who grew up with that, and then also be a little more understanding with the people who, you know, maybe one of their parents didn't love them, or whatever the case may be, they didn't grow up with a parent, and be able to actually pull that and try to help them. And I blame a lot of that on how adamant I am on trying to help people all the time, to probably almost an annoying degree, but it's been a lot of fun. And I guarantee I forgot to send them this link today, because I sent it to them the other day, but I forgot to tell them what time. And so I know right after I'm going to send them the VOD, and they're all going to watch it at work. So it's just a really amazing family to have, to be honest.
Gosh. You know, Victoria, like, I want to be invited to your family game night. Like, it just sounds
we
like
have those. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it is
so cool. I mean, just to even get to a point where you're playing games and you're like your parent, your mom, I mean, to be able to get involved that way. And you know, gosh, we've got to get your mom on the show, because it's like, it's unheard of. I mean, and I don't want to say it's unheard of, but it's probably
it's
just
rare.
not as
Yeah.
common. But that is super cool. I mean, and just from the people I get a chance to talk to, it's like, oh no, my parents, they do their thing, this is my thing. And I completely understand. It's not like, you know, we're trying to force anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with. But at the same time, I bet that just having a dialogue about gaming would be interesting. Just to even share, like, hey, what is it that you're doing? I'm sure it promotes some kind of level of bridging and relationship building, because yeah, you guys are doing something jointly together, and hey, it could be a different game title that nobody knows about, and you get to unpack and tell the story, or just the aspects of the game. So that's super cool. And thank you for sharing the story of your tat. That's so cool. I'm a big fan. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is super rad. Especially since you have, you know, siblings of three, and so that you guys all have a piece there. Okay, gosh. Well, my gosh, Victoria, we are almost at that point. And so here's where I ask you, if you could share some words of wisdom to everyone out there, something for the good of the group. You know, if you could share something that you would want to take us home with, if you don't mind.
Yes. First of all, shout out to Bubba from Varsity Esports Foundation.
Yay, Bubba.
I know that he took this time to shout out other people, and he is one of the sweetest men you will ever meet in your life. So, Varsity Esports Foundation, great group. Love them all. Would recommend to everyone. Outside of that, just focus on being who you are and be undeniably who you are. I think not only in gaming, but in the world in general right now, we feel like we're forced to be who we're not. We feel like we're forced to follow a status quo, whether that be because of social media or whatever the case may be. A digital world is hard to live in, or to grow up in, like a lot of teenagers are right now. And I just want people to realize that you are you for a person. It's boring to be like other people. Be rare, be who you are. And at the end of the day, being who you are is what's going to get you the furthest in life. And just make sure that you're kind. I think that that's what the world needs right now. And anytime you go into a chat, just make sure that you're that positive person. Be the light in a lot of darkness that we have in the world right now, and just make sure that, you know, you're trying to make the world a more positive place instead of contributing to the quote unquote status quo.
Gosh, Victoria, thank you so much. So much positivity that you raised. That is so cool. Goddess of Wisdom. Yes, you got that title for sure.
Thank you.
So the next time I see you, I'm sure that should be like another, like, AKA another title to adopt.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, everybody, thank you. Just heard Victoria Horsley today with us. Please, on the chat, just go crazy and just show us some love. You know, Victoria, thank you so much what you're doing. And I'm sure, you know, you have other social handles that we can follow you in, if you don't mind, if we can share that.
Yeah. So Twitter, it's just at Queen Nehru. Pretty much everything is either at Queen Nehru or at the Queen Nehru. So wherever you want to find me, Twitch, Twitter, whatever it is, I'm here, and I always try to answer messages and answer DMs and get back to as many people as I possibly can. So yeah, just anybody send me a message, and I'm down to chat about some stuff. So
Cool. Thank you so much. Well, you guys all heard it. Thank you so much. And you guys all take care. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.